Thank all of you all for your testimony. When I'll go to questions by the individual members, I'll recognize myself for 5 minutes. There are several issues that have come to light during this hearing. The first one is Sergeant Bergdahl. Who is he? Why did he leave his post? And what's going to happen to him in the future? The second would be those that looked for him. What happened to some of them? And what did the government, the U.S. Army, tell those who lost sons looking for him? There is the issue of do we negotiate with terrorists or do we not negotiate with terrorists? What is the foreign policy of the United States? Maybe one of you could come up with that answer to that question. And then there's the Taliban 5, or as Mr. Waltz has called them, the Taliban War Cabinet, I believe was what the term was. Who are these folks, and why were they in Gitmo in the first place, and what are they going to do in the future? So those are the 4 issues that I want to address. We'll start with you, Mr. Andrews. What did the Army tell you about the way your son was killed? Turn on the mic, please, sir.
Way too technical. They said that they were searching for a high-ranking Taliban and had gone to this bazaar to search for him. And because this was actually in the Silver Star Commendation, but because they had so many problems with IEDs on the road that instead of coming in from the south, they sent them around and come in from the north.
Excuse me for interrupting, but they told you your son was looking for a Taliban commander of some type.
Bergdahl was never mentioned.
All right. When did you learn that that was not true?
Last Saturday.
Were you ever instructed or asked or told by the U.S. Army to sign a confidentiality agreement not to tell anybody about what you were told by the Army?
I was not, but the soldiers who have contacted my wife were asked to sign a non-disclosure agreement, they said.
All right. Sergeant Full, you obviously are very passionate about your testimony. Were members of the United States military killed looking for Bergdahl?
I don't know. What I do know is we were told that we wouldn't be in certain areas before he went and deserted us. So if he wouldn't have deserted us, those people wouldn't have been in those places where they were killed on that date. They would have been somewhere else. They would have been in a different section of Afghanistan.
Mr. Waltz, do you want to weigh in on that specific question?
Mr. Chairman, I can't draw, and I don't know of anyone that can draw a direct line, but I can tell you, to the best of my knowledge, every unit, and it's particularly in Paktika province where Specialist Full was located, but also mine and Host and the surrounding provinces in Ghazni were dedicated to that search. Someone was killed during that specific amount of time. Unless they tripped and hit their head on the way to the mess hall, they were out looking for Sergeant Bergdahl.
The Taliban War Cabinet. Mr. Waltz, you indicated a lot of concern about who these guys are. One of them, even the United Nations, has indicted one of them for war crimes. Who are these people? Americans really aren't sure, or don't know who these 5 folks are.
Well, Mr. Chairman, we've released now the Taliban's Deputy Minister of Defense, a senior operative in their intelligence service that was responsible for migrating al-Qaeda intelligence tactics over to the Taliban. We have released the former Taliban governor of Herat, which is their westernmost province on the border with Iran, and was responsible for liaising with the Iranian government on behalf of the Taliban. And we've released gentlemen that were wanted for war crimes for literally massacring thousands of the ethnic minority that are Shia. If we look at the sectarian violence going on across the Middle East, I wouldn't call that necessarily a wise move. These gentlemen, the question I can't get anyone to ask that was involved with this, and I've talked to a number, is why did the Taliban pick those 5? Out of all of the spectrum of folks they could have chosen out of Guantanamo, why did we give them essentially their top 5 draft picks?
And one follow-up question on that. Understanding the agreement, Qatar is supposed to supervise them, but the supervision of house arrest, if you will, is for just 1 year. Is that your understanding of the deal that was made?
That's my understanding, Mr. Chairman, and frankly, I think some of the details of what they can or can't do in the next year are almost moot. The fact is, it's only for a year.
Last question, Dr. Jacobson. We've heard this through the media. The Lovelady family in Texas was told that the United States doesn't negotiate with terrorists. Their son was later killed in the Algerian attack. Does the United States have a policy that we don't negotiate with terrorists, or we don't have a policy?
What I can tell you is that I don't believe that the Bergdahl exchange is an example of negotiating with terrorists. I believe it is an exchange of prisoners, something that we've seen historically towards the end of war.
Thank you very much. The Chair will recognize the ranking member, the gentleman from California, Mr. Sherman.